that. Woo! Let's go! It's funny because I heard Ankush start talking and I was like, oh man, this dude's basically stolen everything I was preparing. But then I remembered, like, I didn't fully prepare. And what I mean by that is that I wanted to be in a moment, I wanted to feel you guys in the room. And I really wanted to speak from my heart today. And so if you guys will give me permission just to let it flow and just be with me on this journey, and I promise you'll get something from it. Yeah? Thank you. I'm going to start with acknowledgement. Can you hear me? Yeah. Good. My voice sounds kind of deep on this microphone. I like it. Can you hear me? Sorry like that. I'm going to start with some acknowledgements, and I really want to invite you guys to feel into these acknowledgements for yourself. And I want to acknowledge each and every one of you, first and foremost. Like, from my heart to your heart, acknowledge you for everything that you had to do to be here today. Any logistic you took care of, the long travels, the guy at the beginning that shared his document, I mean, wow, went on an adventure. And it doesn't matter whether you came from across the road, it's still, I really want to acknowledge you for that. I want to acknowledge Steve, Amy, and Alan D. Thompson, because without them, well, we wouldn't be here. First things first, it's Steve. But then there was Alan that followed a calling, followed a mission, a nudge from God after being told no multiple times. And Alan followed that, and we are all here. All of our lives have been impacted by that and will continue to be impacted by that. And I really want to deeply thank them for the magnificence of who they truly are. I want to thank the team. Oh my God. Honestly, I don't know all their names, I'm going to be honest. I'm not good with names. I don't know all their names, but I know Rose. I know Matt, Fiona, Andreas, Cassie, Angie, of course. I wouldn't have forgot that. Should give me some space. I would not have forgot that. But and if I don't know your name, it doesn't mean that I don't. I've truly been inspired by all of you. There were times Steve said in when he was doing a video for the India, and Steve said, it's not about the event. The event is a tool. It's about who you get to become towards the event. He was talking to the team. And I experienced that with you guys, is who you was becoming and seeing that in real time. And I was so inspired. Like, the amount of hours that you guys put in to pull this off is inspired me to ask more of myself. Honestly. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. It's nothing short of a miracle to get all of these amazing individuals in this room. If you're wondering where I'm going with this, stop wondering. I promise you we'll get there. I'm just trying to feel and getting comfortable on the stage. I was thinking I should suck my belly in a bit more. Hide this light and making me look. Being present to the humanness and the beauty of that. And so I want to share a story. How about that? Sound good? All right, cool. Thank you, guys. So I'm going to share a story, and it is about once upon a time, there was an experience very similar to this experience. I think it was called the Ultimate Experience London. And I remember attending that experience. And so someone had a vision. It was Matt Smith, I believe. Very similar to Matt Evans. And this experience was set in the Royal Lancaster Hotel, the opulence when you walked in there. You know, sometimes when you walk in some places and you feel like, ooh, don't know if I'm dressed correctly. It had that vibe. Did it have that vibe? It had that vibe in it. And we went in there and everyone sat in the room. And I have never experienced such powerful love, service, impact in one room in my whole entire life, ever. To that point, I left that event a changed being. I had a being upgrade, Judy. And that's exactly what I'm committed to here today. And I'm going to be real with you. So imagine everyone's gone and everyone's clapping and we're feeling the vibe. You know the vibe when someone's on stage like me and I'm like, who can hear me? Please raise your hand. Please. Thank you. See what I mean? It's like you're receptive to it, right? And I was in that as well, but I was being with that. And when we left the event, I'm going to be honest, I was buzzing. I was like transformed. I felt like a new man. And I had an argument with my wife on the way home because I had blisters on my feet. So I'm just bringing the humanness back in, right? But I was connected to the magnificence of who I was and the possibility of who I am becoming. And I know so many people that attended that event and experienced the same thing. So to my surprise, I was checking in with individuals after the event. And I was like, just in conversation, I'd be like, hey, how was the event for you? Yeah, it was all right. I said, what? What do you mean it was all right? Yeah, it was all right. Okay. Oh yeah, that speaker, they were a bit boring. I was like, the fuck? This is what I was thinking. The fuck? Do you mean a bit boring? I was offended. I actually felt angry in that moment. I'm going to be honest. I felt anger. How do you mean boring? Oh yeah, what was I said? I say, what inspired you? And I'm going to ask you guys to ask yourself this question in this moment. What truly inspired you to be in this room today? And I'm not, bearing in mind, I'm not making this wrong. I'm just sharing with you that, and some of the things I heard were, I was curious about Steve. Just wanted to see him. And that's an amazing thing to see. So I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I'm just like, okay, it's a beautiful sight. I mean, you know, you want to see him in action, something. And so I was being with that, and there were multiple other things that came up. And I was angry. I was angry in that moment. I was judging. I was confused. And it wasn't coming from it was almost like it was a negative feeling, but when I sat with it, it was my desire, my will, my love of service that I just wanted them to get and taste what I got and tasted in that room. So whilst I experienced the judgments and negativity, my own way of creating them in that moment, I realized, no, my deepest desire is that each and every one of you in here today experience that. And you will. So, I was replaying the moment in my mind. And for some of you that are in this room today, you was there, right? And there was a beginning. In the beginning, I remember Alan D. Thompson, and I was just sitting there in awe like a child, and and the way he presented and he walked, kind of like Sanika and Ankush, just like, there's a presence, you know? You can feel it. You know they're grounded. You know they're connected to who they truly be. And Alan D. Thompson was sharing his amazing background in sound engineering, and he was saying, no matter where you're sitting, you can upgrade your listening. And I was like, yeah. I was right at the front, so I was kind of like, it didn't matter. I was at the front and center. I had my shoulder to shoulder with Amy. And it was a beautiful experience. And no, but to the point. So I'm sorry if I'm enjoying myself so much up here. Please join me. I'm going to try and let you in. Please, I didn't realize it would feel so good. All right. So, I've always wanted to do this. You know, like when you... I got you laughing. That was not my intention, by the way. So where was I? Thank you. I knew where I was. I was testing whether you guys were listening to me. Amy Hardson, upgrading listening, right? Alan D. Thompson said you can upgrade your listening. And I'm going to be real, and I want some of you guys to be real in here today, because I sat there and thought, yeah. I get it. I didn't really get it though. Can anyone relate? I didn't really get it. So how are you who's sitting near the bar going to experience sitting where he's sitting right now? It's like, I didn't really get it. I was logicalizing it. Is that right, to be honest? Yeah? So I thought about that, I sat with that, and then I was like, Then Steve came on. Oh, might have the honor of having him on today. And Steve, he was doing the acknowledgements like I was in the beginning. Like Anchor started with acknowledgements. He was doing the acknowledgements, right? And he was, in true Steve fashion, he was like, Judy, I love you. And that intensity, and you could feel it. And then he was telling to everyone in the room, if I'm acknowledging Judy, if I'm acknowledging you guys like I was in the beginning, who am I acknowledging? Who am I acknowledging? Right? But can you really feel that? Is the question. Because so many of us that were there, including myself, yeah, could feel that. Well, that got me thinking. And then there was a woman, and people were queuing up naturally, like you guys might want to do after this with me, to take pictures with Steve. And Steve, fingers crossed, I'm creating, and Steve, and a woman was waiting, and she got upset because she wanted a picture, and it seemed like it was a sight to behold. People were really trying to get in between the breaks, and she said, I've been waiting longer. And I remember Steve getting on stage, and don't ask me why this is in my mind, it just is. There was a million things, but this is what is coming through, and I kind of like how it's going, so we'll stick with it. And so Steve, and this woman got up, and she got upset. Naturally, we can all relate to that. It's like, wait, I've been in line. How many of us have been in a queue and been cut in, and we're like, I can relate. Trust me. And so I remember sitting there, and Steve was on the stage, and he was ramped up, and he was like, reminded everybody what they were reminded of. If I'm hugging her, who am I hugging? He's like, be here. Can you hear that? And everybody's like, yeah. And I'm thinking, no, you can't. Now, this is just my truth. I'm not saying it was everyone's truth, but based on the interactions I had with individuals after, it was clear to me that actually, maybe they wasn't connected. Because if you was, wow, I can't even comprehend. So let me try and make it land a bit. And I was contemplating this, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to make it land about acknowledging. Who can hold that for me so I don't forget? 10 minutes. All right, watch this. And I want to share an experience that I had prior to this. I want to make it human, and I'm going to kind of tie it all in. That sound good? Let's see what we could do. So I remember when I was sitting in the audience, and I'm always in audiences. I'm always a student. I'm always there, and I'm listening. And I remember individuals telling me, you can be like this. You can have what you want. You can get here. And this is how I experienced it. And deep down inside, there was a separation for me. There was a separation. I was like, okay. I didn't believe it because I always, no matter how much I told myself, I wouldn't put them on a pedestal or, but they're the speakers. I just didn't believe in myself that, boy, they haven't gone through, it must have been easy for them, right? So I want to share with you something. This was one of the hardest things I've ever had to go through in recent times, to the point that I can't even explain it. I thought I had this being thing mastered. I had my document. I am freedom. And I'm not saying that to diminish the power in it, but just hopefully you get where I'm coming from. I am unedited perfection. And if I was truly being that, surely the thought of being up here and sharing my heart with you guys wouldn't hurt. Surely. It was the hardest thing. In fact, even up to yesterday, I was sick to the stomach. And I said to my wife, I said, you know what, honey? I'm going to tell Matt I'm not doing it. Can't do it. And I'm lying. We were supposed to come to the meet up at the F1 place. And I was tired and my stomach was hurting. And I had so much nerves. And I said, and in my head, I was like, I'm not doing it. I can't do it. And I could go into detail more about that. Time check. 5 minutes? 5 minutes. And I really want you to connect with, as a possibility that sometimes that's part of the journey. Sometimes no matter how much you sit down and you create, you still have to take action and actually do the thing, right? But it was hard. I didn't want to do it. I was scared. Can you hear that? I was scared. Scared. I was nearly, in fact, I probably cried a few times. And the biggest thing that shocked me, and this is why I'm sharing this bit, I shared with my wife. I was in the bed. I was saying, honey, this is how I feel. And it always surprises me. She goes, but I would never know that. Because it just seems like you're never bothered. And it's not true. It's not true. What I realized when I was playing back Steve in my head, and that idea of if you got it, can you hear that? If I'm acknowledging you, if Kush is acknowledging Steve, who are we acknowledging me? And what I experienced in that moment on the train when I was coming up was if you can suspend logic for a minute, if you can trust with your heart and your soul and feel into the possibility of that, just being that alone would have you experience the world differently. Because as I was on the train and I was writing, and I was thinking about this acknowledgement piece, and is it possible? And just thinking into the possibility and then being that in that moment, I realized there was nothing ever to be afraid of to be on this stage. There is nothing ever to be afraid of as it relates to you stepping into your goals and your dreams. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that you're going to be free from fear while you're doing it. I think that's the misconception some of us get. We think that, in order to do it, I've got to pluck it. I've got to have it all figured out, and then I've got to step into it. No. That's part of the journey, is being with the fear. There is no courage in the absence of fear. None. And nobody is on another level. And as a possibility, when what I saw and what I felt and what I experienced is that when you can feel into that, you're amazing. You're amazing. You're beautiful. Steve's amazing. Ankush is amazing. And you can actually experience that as a possibility. Can you hear that? As a possibility. And I realized everything just, that shifted my whole thing. I went to the speaker's dinner tonight. I was a mess. Last night, see? Still a mess. Went to the speaker's dinner, and there was an energy, there was an essence, there was a love. And everybody that I was embracing and hugging and loving, I was loving myself and embracing and experiencing that for myself. Everybody that I was seeing, being acknowledged, I was experiencing that acknowledgement. And I realized most of our pain, most of our struggles come from this idea that we create, that we are separate. I was explaining to my wife this morning, and I love her dearly. She's like, yeah, I don't get it. And I'm like, yeah, honey, I know. Another funny thing, when I was prepping certain slideshows, and every time I prepped like 10 keynotes, and I'd go through each one of them, my spirit just weren't connected. And I was being called, no, just get on stage and be you, share you. So as a possibility, what I realized was that we create the disconnect. That if Lindsay's winning, you're winning. If I'm winning, you're winning. And if you could just suspend logic for a moment and step into that as a possibility for this weekend, I assure you that if you did attend London and you was one of the ones that said to me, I didn't like that speaker, that's not going to exist anymore. And you will see things that you never saw before, and you will feel things you never felt before. And that's my invitation to everyone. I guess I'm like wrapping up now. I just want to really just make it land as a possibility. It's not an intellectual thing. It's something that you experience from your soul and from your heart. And just practicing that single practice alone and being that we are all connected. We can all share the joy, the love. I realized it also gave me a deeper capacity to feel compassionate because my heart is just more open. So I trust that you divine beings will take something from that. I've got 1 second. Thank you guys for listening. I love you so much. Thank you.